Story 1. The Mojave Shaft. This happened less than a month ago. I'm a senior in high school and I've lived in Nevada my whole life. There's not much to do out here. But one thing my friends and I have always been into is urban exploring. We'd hunt for forgotten places, abandoned buildings, dead malls, old service tunnels, anything with that eerie, decayed energy. We weren't into vandalism or breaking things. It was all about the vibe. Finding places time forgot. The guy in our group who always found the weirdest spots was Charles. Charles was different, quiet, mysterious, a little too intense sometimes, but he had a knack for uncovering places none of us had ever heard of. I never asked how he found them. One day, he sent us a screenshot from this sketchy Instagram account. Low follow account, grainy photos, strange cryptic captions, and creepy comments under every post. The photo in question had a caption that read, "Dozens of abandoned mine shafts in the Mojave Desert, if you know where to look." Apparently, Charles had messaged the account, and whoever ran it gave him some areas to check out. That's all he needed. He was obsessed instantly. So, that Saturday, it was me, Charles, and our other friend James. We loaded up my Wrangler, perfect for desert off-roading, and took off. We didn't have an exact location, just a pin drop, somewhere deep in the Mojave. We left the main road almost 30 minutes before we even got close to the marked spot. The path we were on barely looked like a road anymore. No signs, no structures, just a suffocating expanse of sun-baked nothingness. James kept grumbling from the back seat, clearly annoyed. He thought Charles had been scammed, that this was all a huge waste of time. But Charles wasn't letting it go. He was glued to the offline maps he'd downloaded earlier. Eventually, just when we were about to give up, James noticed something. Off to the right, barely visible from the dirt trail, was a collapsed wooden structure built into the side of a slope. It looked like a rotting shed at first, but as we got closer, we realized it was an old mine entrance. Part of it was caved in, but a narrow opening still led into darkness. Charles didn't say a word. He pulled out his phone and dropped a pin, then turned to James and smirked. "Told you." James rolled his eyes, but even I had to admit, it was crazy we actually found it. I parked a few yards away, we got out, geared up. Charles even brought masks, for dust, he said. Smart move. The entrance looked unstable, wooden beams held up, a slope of dirt and stone that looked ready to collapse at any second. Charles tossed a rock into the shaft. We waited. 1 second. 2. Then, clink, clink, clang. It bounced 3 times before vanishing into silence. It was deep. Charles looked back at us and said, "If we fall, we're dead." Not exactly comforting. The descent began. The shaft wasn't vertical, thank God. It sloped downward steeply, but walkable. The ground was loose, slippery with dust. Old beams lined the walls. To my surprise, they were sturdy. The deeper we went, the colder it got, and quieter. Eventually, we hit a level area. The tunnel widened. It branched in multiple directions. Rust-covered rails ran along the floor. There were scraps of metal, rotted wood, debris, relics of a time long forgotten. The air was stale. The masks helped more than I thought they would. We picked a tunnel and wandered. No real destination, just exploring. Then we heard it. A dragging sound. Faint. Somewhere ahead. Metal on rock. Or maybe wood. At first, I thought I imagined it, but I saw Charles freeze. James motioned to kill the lights. We did. Pitch black, the kind of dark that makes your brain panic. We listened. Scrape. Shh. Something was moving, coming closer. Slowly, deliberately. Then James, the genius, accidentally flicked his light on for a split second. A flash of light. Gone. The dragging stopped. Silence. Then, bang. A loud, metallic clang. Then, the scream. I've never heard anything like it. It didn't sound human. It didn't sound like any animal either. Just pain. Pure, violent rage. We ran. Harder than I've ever run before. Adrenaline overrode everything. I was in the back, and I tripped. One of my shoes flew off. My foot slammed against jagged rock. But I didn't stop. Couldn't. Charles and James were already climbing. I scrambled up after them, barefoot, my skin tearing with every step. Pain shot up my leg with every inch. But the fear, the panic, kept me moving. We burst into daylight. They practically dragged me to the car. I couldn't drive. James took the wheel. We sped off, choking on silence and dust. At the hospital, I got a tetanus shot and had splinters pulled from deep in my foot. Couldn't walk right for days. Then James remembered he lost his wallet near the entrance. We didn't want to go back, but curiosity won. We drove out. Mine looked the same, but the wallet was gone. My shoe, though, it was there, sitting a few feet from the entrance, ripped, bitten. There were teeth marks, chunks missing, like something had chewed through it. We didn't stay long. Charles tried messaging the Instagram account again. No response. I haven't gone exploring since, and I don't think I ever will. Not in the desert. Not again. Story 2. The firelight. In the sand, I've always been more rugged than most. To me, a vacation doesn't mean a resort or hotel. It means camping, fishing, getting off the grid. My girlfriend, Tiki, shared that mindset. That's one of the reasons we clicked so quickly. A few weeks ago, we decided to do something different. A desert trip. We'd done mountains and forests, but we'd never experienced the brutal stillness of the desert. Silence. The isolation. It called to us. Especially the stars. We both loved stargazing. We'd lie on my truck's hood, hours into the night, counting constellations and whispering nonsense. So when we found a remote camping spot online, public land, no amenities, no light pollution, it sounded perfect. We drove out early Friday, 3 hours from the city. The last stretch of road felt like it went on forever. No people, no signs of life, just sun and dust. By late afternoon, we set up camp. No one else was there. The first 2 nights were incredible. Warm days, cool breezes at night. We drank, we laughed, passed a joint back and forth, laid back and let the universe spin above us. But both nights, we heard something, far off, not close, but deep, low, drawn out howling, like an animal, maybe a coyote or not. It sounded wrong, too guttural, too long. Still, we brushed it off. Desert wildlife. What else could it be? The third night was different. I woke up. Something was outside the tent. Footsteps. Slow. Measured, too heavy for an animal. I froze. Didn't wake Tiki. Didn't breathe. The steps stopped. Silence. Then, click. The sound of a lighter. A flicker of orange glowed through the tent wall, low waist height. Then it moved side to side. Then the flame grew, way bigger. Whoever was out there lit something. A torch, then they dropped it. Onto the ground. Onto the tent. Flames burst across the fabric. Tiki screamed. I threw the flap open. Smoke poured in. She grabbed a water jug. I stomped. Burned my foot. Didn't matter. We killed the fire, barely. Half the tent was gone. I scanned the dark with my flashlight. Nobody. No tracks. No noise. Just night. We packed up and started walking to the truck. No lights. No trail. We guessed. Then we heard it. The scream. That same scream from the first night. But now, louder and not alone. One scream became two, then three, echoing from behind us. Something was out there, hunting, calling. I grabbed Tiki's arm and we ran. Somehow, we found the truck, threw everything in, didn't care what we left behind. I drove like hell, didn't stop until we saw headlights from other cars. We made it out, barely. But I still hear those screams in my dreams, and I'll never sleep in the desert again. Not ever. Story 3. The Man Who Watched from the Window. It started last October when I moved into a small rental house just outside of town. I'd been looking for a quiet place after a messy breakup. Something off the grid, somewhere I could think. Clearly, heal. The house was old but charming, tucked between a grove of trees with a creaky porch and ivy crawling up the sides. It was cheap too, which should have been my first red flag. I moved in on a Friday. The landlord, an older guy named Frank, handed me the keys and gave a few vague warnings about the area. Gets real quiet out here, he said, and the locals keep to themselves. I didn't care. That was exactly what I wanted. The first few days were uneventful. I unpacked, cleaned, stocked up on groceries. The nights were eerily silent, but I chalked that up to being away from the city for the first time in years. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. But on the fourth night, I started noticing something strange. The living room had this big window facing the woods, and every night, around 2 or 3 in the morning, I'd hear a soft tapping on the glass. It was never loud, just a few light taps, like fingernails on a mirror. The first time, I thought maybe it was a branch swaying in the wind, but the trees weren't close enough for that. The second time, I thought maybe it was an animal, but the third night, when I crept to the window and peeked through the curtain, I saw a face. It was pale and expressionless, pressed right up against the glass. His eyes were wide open and he was just staring. He didn't blink, didn't move, didn't even react when I gasped and stumbled backward. When I looked again, he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I went outside and searched the area beneath the window. No footprints, no signs of anyone being there, just undisturbed leaves and grass. I told myself I imagined it, that maybe I'd been dreaming, or maybe the isolation was getting to me. But the next night, it happened again. Same tapping, same time. I looked through the curtain, slower this time, and there he was, staring. His mouth slightly open, like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. I flicked on the porch light and ran outside. Nothing. No one. The woods were silent, still, and empty. That's when I set up a camera. I aimed it at the window from the inside and set it to record overnight. I watched the footage the next morning with a pit in my stomach, and sure enough, there he was. At exactly 2:47 a.m., A figure appeared at the window, the man from the night before. But what scared me the most wasn't that he was watching me. It was that the footage showed him arriving, but it didn't show him leaving. One frame he's there, the next he's gone, like he blinked out of existence. I called the sheriff's office that day. They sent a deputy out to take a report. He was polite, but I could tell he thought I was just a stressed out city guy with an overactive imagination. He told me to keep the doors locked, set up motion lights, and to call again if it escalated. That night, I barely slept. I kept every light on, sat in the living room with a baseball bat in my hand, just waiting. And when 2:47 hit, nothing happened. No tapping, no face, no sign of anyone. I let myself relax, just a little. Maybe the deputy's visit scared him off. Maybe it really was over. But 2 days later, when I went into town for groceries, I ran into a man at the gas station. Old, hunched, smelled like cigarettes and motor oil. He looked at me and asked, "You the one staying in the Collins house?" I told him yes. He just nodded and said, "Don't look out the windows after midnight." That's how he gets in. I tried to ask what he meant, but he walked off before I could press him. That night I taped a thick blanket over the window. I didn't want to see him again. Didn't want him to see me, and that worked. For a while. But then, last week, I woke up to the sound of breathing. Not mine. Not from outside. It was coming from the hallway, inside the house. Slow, raspy, shallow. I reached over for the bat I kept next to my bed and crept to the door. I didn't see anything at first, just the dark hallway lit by the bathroom nightlight. But then I noticed something at the end of the hall. A shape, standing perfectly still. It was him, inside, his head tilted ever so slightly. Eyes locked on mine, mouth still hanging open like he was trying to speak. I slammed the door and locked it, heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. I called 911 and waited. When the police arrived, they searched the house top to bottom. No one. All the doors were still locked, windows sealed. No sign of forced entry. But I know what I saw, and I know he was inside. I moved out the next morning. Didn't even pack half my stuff. Just drove. And didn't stop until I hit my sister's place 2 states over. I never went back, never looked at the footage again. And I never, ever sit near windows after dark anymore, because I know he's still watching, somewhere out there in the dark, waiting for me to look again.